Hello, my name is Darlene Washington. I am from the West River, South County area, and I want to say that during this pandemic, I have really had the privilege of serving so many people at our Tri-Civic Association. Our churches have come together in the community, and at Franklin we have provided over 5,000 plus meals from April 2020 up until now. We've served groceries, bags of groceries, fresh food, meats, and we've served hot meals. It's been my pleasure to serve others, and I think this pandemic has been a challenge, but it's also been an opportunity to do what we should do for God's people.
Hello, my name is Sandy Bartlett. I serve as a member of the House of Delegates representing District 32. My proudest achievement has been this year passing the Police Accountability Act. I am so proud that we got that work done and that we are limiting use of excessive force.
I'm Nasinshira Afi, and my proudest achievements are working with Caucus of African American Leaders and other organizations in the safety of our youth on the streets, also with our youth education, and one of the founders of Al-Kebulan Shule, and Souls to the Polls, getting our elderly and seniors who've been shut in to the polls who desire to cast their vote.
My name is Roxanne McGowan. I'm the Deputy Program Integrationist for the Community Action Agency of Anne Arundel County. I believe one of my most successful accomplishments was given the opportunity to transition a 6-bedroom townhouse into a workforce center under workforce development in the largest public housing community within the county, about 360 residents, where they were able to get driver's licenses, get GEDs, get training, whatever services or resources that they needed. I had an office. I did computer training, I did workshops, webinars, seminars, everything that they needed to progress in life, as well as it was right in the center of the community where they could get out of their beds, leave out of their house, and walk up the street into the workforce center.
Hi, my name is Reverend Marguerite Morris, and one of my most memorable moments of things that will impact people in the state of Maryland was I recently argued in a 5-day hearing against the Attorney General's office to overturn an erroneous decision by Dr. David Fowler. That determination spun House Bill number 934, which impacts Marylanders across the state. That is one of my most memorable moments, and that was done in memory of my daughter, Catherine Sarah Morris. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Denise Dent, and my most memorable experience is sitting in election campaign headquarters in Anne Arundel County when Delegate Mike Rogers, it became apparent that he had won and became the first Black delegate for District 32. Not only did the work and hard work and the Get Out to Vote events that we did over the last 6 months turn out to be the most important event here, but it became a historical moment in Anne Arundel County. And I am pleased to say that I was an active part of that. Thank you.
My name is Deborah Ann Darden. One of my best accomplishments is being able to reach back to the young people, show them a better way of living, and help to lessen the rate of recidivism in the state of Maryland.
Greetings and blessings. My name is Monica Lindsay, otherwise known as Amaka, and I am so pleased to be here today. In answer to the question, the most memorable event I've brought to the community, I believe, would be bringing the screening of 13th, which kind of opened the doorway of a conversation about how the 13th Amendment impacted African Americans in this society. Along with that, many other memorable events followed, but that one kind of opened the doorway and let me know that there is an impact that can be made through the education and bringing together and conversations. So I'm very pleased to have been involved in that and grateful for the opportunity.
Hi, my name is Chanel Compton, and my most memorable, I think, significant achievement that I've contributed to Anne Arundel is for sure being the executive director of the Banneker Douglas Museum, which is Maryland State Museum on African American History and Culture that's located right here in the heart of downtown Annapolis. And so even though we are a Maryland State Museum, we do tremendous programming for the Annapolis and greater Anne Arundel community through our exhibitions, our programs, and so much more. So having the opportunity to come to work every day in a place where Frederick Douglass once spoke, where Rosa Parks once visited, and the many other incredible African American Marylanders right here at the Banneker Douglas Museum, having the opportunity to come here every day is incredibly inspiring and empowering, and I'm truly blessed to be able to give back in that way. Thank you.
Here's our outstanding honorees. Would you give them a round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Now that all of our honorees have arrived, this is the 26th annual Fannie Lou Hamer Awards and Reception. Fannie Lou Hamer was a remarkable woman, as you will learn as we move with this particular program. She was a Mississippian, a sharecropper. She had an experience that few people would want to have. She, Fannie Lou Hamer, was born in the year October 6, 1917, was the 20th child of her parents. She was the youngest. Her parents had 20 children, and she was the youngest. And Fannie Lou Hamer, in Mississippi in 1917, life had already been predetermined. It was said that Fannie Lou Hamer would be like her mother and her father, destined to be sharecroppers. Picking cotton would be what she would be doing. And as you will hear later in the program, something happened. There's a German word called Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist means the spirits of the time. Something happened to Fannie Lou Hamer that would change her life, and in turn change the lives of millions of Americans. Fannie Lou Hamer, 42 years old. Fannie Lou Hamer would never voted in her life. Fannie Lou Hamer, who always wanted to have children. She came from a large family. She discovered that after she got married to her husband, she desperately wanted to have children and kept trying and trying and trying. The thought originally was that maybe it was her husband. Maybe he was not able to produce this child that wanted. So they sent Fannie Lou Hamer to find out what was going on and why was it that she was not able to have children. And she discovered something then that changed her for the rest of her life. She discovered that when she went to Mississippi for a simple female problem, she was sterilized without her permission. It affected her greatly. She loved children. And in Mississippi in that day, it was not uncommon for women of color to be sterilized against their will. In that day, there was no such thing as choice. We'll be hearing a lot more with Fannie Lou Hamer while we honor her in Maryland, while we've been doing it for the last 26 years, and while the recipients of this award are so reflective of who Fannie Lou Hamer was. That despite the odds, despite the obstacles, she refused to give in. Spent the rest of her life struggling to make America better and not bitter. At this moment, we're going to call on the Reverend Marguerite Morris to come up and give us the invocation as we formally begin the program. Reverend Morris.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for allowing us to assemble ourselves here today safely. We ask you, Father God, that all things that are said and done be to your glory. We thank you, Lord God, how you have graced us. You have been merciful. And we pray for this program. We pray for the lives of others. We pray, Father God, that you will continue to help us to impact those around us, all those under the sound of my voice and then some. It is in the Lord's name that we pray this day. Thank God and amen. Amen.
There are a lot of things about Fannie Lou Hamer that generally people don't know. Fannie Lou Hamer was a contemporary of such great women as Jackie Kennedy. Jacqueline Kennedy was the first lady for her lifetime. She was a contemporary of Rosa Parks and a contemporary of Coretta Scott King, a contemporary of Maya Angelou, a contemporary of women who made their mark in history. But she was not as well known as those women. But it's arguable, it can be argued that she played as significant a role. 26 years ago, we decided to begin to honor women of various racial backgrounds, because we recognize that it is women who have made a tremendous contribution in this country. There is a story called His Story, but we recognize her story must be told if America is to be able to tell our story. And so women who have been the trailblazers, some quietly working in the background, some the head of their households and some household names. But these women, all of them, have played such a significant role. For those who take a moment to review American history, you will discover that often women were unsung heroes. Women did so many amazing things that so many people are unaware of. I want to share this one example that you will find that 99% of Americans do not know. Americans who've gone to college, Americans who got their doctoral degree, Americans who studied American history. There is a woman that people are not aware of. And her role is so significant. And I give you this example as we move this program forward. The ninth Vice President of the United States was a man named Richard Mentor Johnson. He served under President Martin Van Buren. His Vice President, Richard Mentor Johnson, did something that was unheard of in that day. It made such a fundamental difference that for many, many, many years, nobody spoke about it. In fact, kids can go through public schools and matriculate and will never know what I'm about to tell you. It's amazing how the contributions of women have been hidden. Richard Mentor Johnson, who was a United States Senator from a place called Kentucky, did something that was unheard of in his day. In his day, you could not have interracial marriage. It was absolutely against the law to marry someone of another race. Imagine, if you will, Senator Johnson, asking a black woman to be his wife. And despite the fact that it was against the law, he married her. And they had 2 beautiful daughters. He was the 9th Vice President of the United States, Richard Mentor Johnson. His wife's name was Julie Chen. And you can walk and talk to a lot of people, and they just have never heard her. They're shocked to learn that this occurred. And it's stories like that, we believe, is why Fannie Lou Hamer and this annual event must take place. Because there's so many women in our county and in our nation who are doing this marvelous things. And their stories must be told. So today we're honored to have a number of our elected officials, some of them trailblazers in their own right, to address this audience. We have with us this evening on our podium the county executive, Stuart Pittman, who will be asked to come and bring greetings as we follow the program. County Executive Pittman, please join me in welcome to the podium.
Can you hear me okay? Good. All right. So, first of all, it's an honor to be on this stage in this building where all of this history took place, and it's almost surreal to be surrounded by these displays telling the story of enslaved people, many of whom were local people who escaped and freed themselves. The Fannie Lou Hamer Award is always something that I love because we get a group of women from our county to honor and recognize who, the way I see it, they're organizers. They're the people who bring people together, the way Fannie Lou Hamer did. And when I look at this list, I know they are tireless organizers. They aren't the people normally who are standing up behind a microphone at a podium, but they're always the people who bring people to the event and who engage people and who inspire people. And we're at a time when we all got pretty inspired and we got pretty organized. I'm telling Trump was the president. We all got pretty pissed off, if I'm allowed to say that. It inspired us, and we worked real hard to change history and probably save the country and the globe. But now we're in a place where we have the opportunity to cut childhood poverty in half, to get in Anne Arundel County the percentage of our kids who are kindergarten ready increased and doubled, so that the opportunity gap in our schools is no longer, is finally starting to shrink, will start to shrink. We have the federal government that's actually trying to help to solve some of the inequities that we have that are structural, that have been there for a really long time, and it will take a really long time to solve, to get to that place of equity. It may not happen in my lifetime, but we better get closer than we are now, or else the work of all of these honorees will have failed. I'm not going to let that happen. So I just want to say how impressed I am by this group. I think I know all of them. I think all of them have told me how to do my job at one point or another. And I believe the citations come later, right? But I just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee for doing this year after year after year and recognizing our heroes in Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
Our next person bringing greetings is the mayor of this great city, the mayor of Annapolis. With no further ado, Mayor Gavin Buckley.
was walking with Carl this morning and he said I could come in casual because he knows we do about a dozen events each day at this time of year. I'm just here to say how inspired I am by the recipients. I want to thank you for making me better at what I do in my job. So I learn from you every single day. So keep prodding, keep educating me. I like to say I was raised by a single mum who inspired me to run for office. She did a lot of stuff on her own. You know, back in the day, the men didn't do a lot. The man in my life really wasn't ever around, but the one constant in my life was my mum. So I make sure that I surround myself with smart women who make a difference in this city. So in my administration, our Director of Planning and Zoning, Sally Nash, Dr. Sally Nash, is leading the city in an excellent direction. Our Director of Finance, Jodie Dickinson, another amazing woman who really has got the city's finances in order. Our Deputy City Manager, Jackie Giles, is getting the city going in the right direction and turning this city into a true environmentally sensitive city with true environmental credentials. Lynn Farrow, the Assistant City Manager, another leader that we look at. I could name more than that, but it's important to have these people around you. Our Public Information Officer is doing a tremendous job to let you all know what is happening around this city. My Chief of Staff came to me with tons of credentials on a federal level. They all make me better. These women make the city of Annapolis better. We are a better city because of you and because of them. Thank you for inspiring me. Keep up the amazing work. This city has some change coming to it, and it's all because of you. Thank you so much.
Fannie Lou Hamer ran for public office at a time that women were not supposed to run for public office. She ran in Mississippi. She challenged the notion that people, if were given an opportunity to elect or to vote, would vote. So she put together the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And thousands of people who previously had never voted for Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer did not win that race. But she said at the time of her loss, women will be back. Women will be back. This is not the last time you will see women, she said. Women will make a difference in America. How right she was. Because of Fannie Lou Hamer, we have seen women rise to positions that they've never held before. Our next speaker is an example of that woman who's risen to a position that had previously been occupied only by men. Please welcome to the podium the Honorable Ann Colt-Leitis, the Anne Arundel County State's Attorney.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I have to put on my glasses. I found I've gotten to that age. So I am the state's attorney for Anne Arundel County, and that's like the district attorney for the rest of the United States. I don't know why Maryland likes to call states attorneys. And I am the first woman to serve in 96 years, and it is quite an honor and a bit of a burden to have that title because you don't want to be the person to mess it up. But what's remarkable is that right across, actually right behind us at the Circuit Court, there have only been just a handful of female judges on the bench, and just one African-American woman and just two African-American men who served as Circuit Court judges. So we have a long way to go to make it a little bit better here in Anne Arundel County. I am so pleased to be part of today's program honoring the 12 women who embody the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer. Congratulations to each of you for this remarkable recognition. We are all aware that in 1963, Mrs. Hamer suffered a terrible beating And she was almost killed while she was jailed with 4 of her companions. And they were on their way home from a voter registration workshop. And she suffered lifelong injuries as a result of that beating. And this senseless attack on her likely cut her life short, and she passed away at the age of 59. She had a long life of poverty. She had this serious beating that left her with a limp, caused damage to her kidneys, and then at age 58, she suffered from cancer and died at 59. And in 1963, the United States Justice Department under Robert Kennedy brought charges against the men who were involved in conspiring to have her attacked in the jail. He brought charges against the sheriff, the chief of police, and multiple other men who were involved in her jailhouse attack. And they were charged with conspiracy to deprive her of her civil rights, simply by her exercising her right to go to this voter registration workshop and then come home on a bus to her hometown. And there was compelling testimony during that trial. It was a federal trial in Oxford, Mississippi. And Mrs. Hamer gave compelling evidence and pointed out her attackers. The FBI brought in forensic evidence of the bloody clothes that she and her companions were wearing when they were beaten. However, the all-white male jury acquitted all of the men of this terrible attack. But her story did not end there. That loss turned into something more powerful. She used what happened to her as her story and her narrative. And she was able to be one of the most successful speakers and fundraisers for voters' rights groups. In fact, she was so compelling that she was part of a group that started attempted to start a third-party political party in the South. And it was so powerful that Lyndon Johnson was worried that she would have these voters who would normally vote for a Democrat pull away from him. And so, sitting as president, he actually had a press conference so that he could steal her thunder when she was about to be on TV one night. But guess what? That made her even more popular. And her television broadcast of the speech that she was supposed to give that was interrupted by the president was re-televised to an even bigger audience. So talk about turning that around. So, as your state's attorney, I recognize the power that the courts can have in holding people accountable for abusing the rights of others, and that includes law enforcement. And what we learned from Fannie Lou Hamer is even though she did not win that court case, she became more of a compelling voice for all of us. We can change things, if not in the short run, in the long run. And we can be the spark to start a movement, to ignite a fire. So thank you for having me here today, and again, I'm so happy to be among the 12 honored women who are carrying forth Fannie Lou Hamer's legacy. Thank you very much.
Again, women are just occupying positions that have previously never been held before. And it's because of people like Fannie Lou Hamer, who literally was beaten in order to ensure that women would get an opportunity to be able to run for public office and to vote. A little history I always like to give people, because so many people are ignorant about history. Here in the state of Maryland, there was a law passed by the Maryland General Assembly in 1909. It disenfranchised thousands of African Americans. The year is 1909, and the Maryland General Assembly passed a piece of legislation, and the legislation was called the Grandfather Clause. And it simply said if your grandfather couldn't vote, neither can you. And thousands of Marylanders who were African Americans lost the right to vote. Here in the city of Annapolis, African Americans have served on the Annapolis City Council from 1873, that's 8 years after the Civil War, up to the present, with only that one exception. Because when the law was passed in 1909, African Americans were denied the opportunity to be on the Annapolis City Council for 6 years. Thanks to the United States Supreme Court, That law was considered unconstitutional and invalid. And ever since then, African Americans have served on the Annapolis City Council. In 1997, the first African American woman got elected here in the city of Annapolis. To appreciate that, you need to know that the charter for Annapolis was 1708. This city was founded in 1649. And African American women, or woman, did not get elected until 1993. What progress, to appreciate the progress you got in the history. And that's why it's my pleasure to introduce the first woman to be elected from District 32 as a state senator, who happened to be the guy named John Grasso. For that I am grateful. The Honorable Pamela Barlow.
Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to all the honorees. I didn't know I was going to have the opportunity to speak today, but I do appreciate that opportunity. And for these 12 women, you've all done just tremendous work. I know almost all of you, but I need to shout out two very special women from District 32. And one is my friend and teammate, Sandy Bartlett. I'm so proud of Sandy. And Sandy is the first African-American woman to represent District 32, as I am the very first woman senator ever from District 32. So we're very proud of that. And to my newest appointment, but maybe someday will be an elected board member, Gloria Dent, and you've already done so much work. Talk about an organizer. This lady's been organizing for, I think, as long as you've lived in the county, we've known you and watched you organize, so thank you to both of you. I was honored to receive this award, I think in 2001. Mr. Stone, you have all the history, but he says I'm correct, so it is a very, very special honor, and I'm still proud of it today. And so for all the women that are being honored today, thank you for your work. And you do make a difference. You make a huge difference in the legislature, in the communities, and everything you do. So thank you very much.
It really is important to know history. It's important to understand history. Again, Marylanders take certain things for granted, but it's not always been that way. I've had the pleasure over the years of knowing every African American who's ever served for Maryland in the House of Representatives. Before you think I'm old, it's not been that many. It has not been that many. I remember Perry J. Mitchell when he first got elected out of Baltimore City, the first African American to get elected to the United States House of Representatives. Then I remember in 1984, this man running for the presidency at the time, and the slogan was, "Run, Jesse, run. Run, Jesse, run." And hundreds of thousands of black people in Maryland responded to that call, "Run, Jesse, run." And the turnout in Prince George's County was such an incredible turnout when he ran for president that the question became, if people can turn out in this great number, will they be able to turn out for a United States Congressman? And I remember the race between Al Wynn and Alexander Williams. An African American got elected from that congressional district in Prince George's County. And that was followed by a woman named Donna Edwards, who became the first African American woman in the state of Maryland to get elected to the United States House of Representatives. And our next speaker followed her. He was Lieutenant Governor here in the state of Maryland. He served in armed services in this nation. And now I'm happy to introduce the Congressman from the 5th Congressional District, who, by the way, represents part of Anne Arundel County, the Honorable Anthony Bradley.
How's everybody doing today? I told the technician here, so you don't have to use the worry about the speaker for me because I'm a project. But it's so wonderful to be here. I do have just some brief prepared remarks, but before I go into that, I just want to kind of pick up where Carl left off, which is, Karen Mitchell was the first African American representative the state of Maryland in the United States House of Representatives. And we have had in the history of this country more than 12,400 men and women who had the privilege of serving in the U.S. House of Representatives. Think about it, 12,400, and of that, less than 150 have been African American. Now today we boast a large congressional black caucus of almost 60 members, but it hasn't always been that way. In fact, today 27% of the members of the U.S. House of Representatives are women. 27%. It's not good enough, but it's getting better considering out of that 12,400 that I mentioned a minute ago, only 347 women have ever served in the U.S. House of Representatives. 347. Today we have 119. 119. And it's because of those 119 that we're getting the things done that we need to get done. It's because of the strong women. While they're only 27.4% in the House, they're making a big impact because our Speaker of the House of Representatives is a woman, Nancy Pelosi, who comes from Maryland. 5 of the 6 largest caucuses, at least in the Democratic side, are led by women. The Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, the New Democratic Coalition, and even the more conservative Democrats, the Blue Dogs, led by a woman. A rich, diverse group of leaders that are making a big difference in the U.S. House of Representatives. This year, because of their efforts, we were able to replace the statue of Robert E. Lee with that of Virginia. Because of women in the House of Representatives, we have among, and you've heard of statuary hall, where every state sends 2 statues to represent them. And soon we got to change Maryland statues, 2 old white guys. It's time to change. But the only statue in the U.S. Capitol that is not placed there by a state, because we as a body decided we're just going to do something a little different, is of Rosa Parks. And that's because of the women in the House of Representatives. That's just statutes and monuments. What about the progress and results? Well, in February, we were able to include in the American Rescue Plan a child tax credit that has resulted in $3,000 a year, or $3,600, depending on how old your children are, that are supporting women and lifting women and children out of poverty. That was done because of women leadership in the House of Representatives. Our fight today, and you know we're fighting up on Capitol Hill. We're trying to get to this. We're trying to get the president to America. Not just the president, it's the Biden-Harris, our first woman vice president of the United States. We're trying to get their plan passed. And what does it include? It includes things that are important to all of us, but are particularly important to women, like universal pre-K for all 3- and 4-year-olds, and access to quality, affordable child care. Because we know that in the economy in which we live, we can talk about growing the economy and creating jobs, but if access to those jobs are not equal for women as it is for men, what kind of economy are we building? Right? Who shoulders the burden to raise a family, to take care of our children, to take care of our parents? Women do. So if we're not supporting women at home, then they're not going to be able to access the workforce in the way that they should be able to. We're fighting for free community college tuition so we can enhance the skills in our labor force. These are initiatives that are driven by women. And a few men are joining along so we can get this done. In the House of Representatives, we passed a bill, equal pay for equal work. Because still today, we're not receiving the same amount. In the House of Representatives, we reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. But here's the challenge. All of this work, it's sitting over in the Senate, and it's not being acted upon. How many women you think are over in the Senate? Not nearly enough. We got some work to do there too. But I just wanted to come by today to say that it's an honor. It's an honor to represent you in Congress. I'm joined by John Sarbanes and Dutch Rubersberg, and we're together collectively we represent Anne Arundel County. I ask you to be actively engaged in the redistricting process because there's talk. Well, let's not talk about what that talk is. Let's just talk about what I hope it is, because I hope I continue to be able to represent Anne Arundel County after this next round of redistricting. So make sure your voices are heard. Attend those commission hearings and say, we want the 4th Congressional District, whether it's Anthony Brown or whoever, we want the 4th Congressional District to be in Anne Arundel County. Certainly, if I have the privilege of being re-elected, I want to continue to work with fine county executives, Steve Pittman, Senator Bilo, I've served with in the General Assembly, and now we get to work together. Mayor Gavin, your outstanding State's Attorney, Holt, congratulations and thank you for the superb leadership that you're doing. And finally, let me just say to 12 honorees, congratulations. Congratulations for your contributions in the community, in civic life, political life, as business leaders and educators. You are truly emblematic of, resembling, emulating the tireless effort, persistent work carried out by Ms. Fannie Lou Hamer, who is a true trailblazer for women, and quite frankly, an inspiration for countless. So I've said all that I wanted to say. I'm not even going to turn to my prepared remarks because you got a program, we got a program to get on to, which is to honor 12 outstanding women in the community. But finally, let me end by thanking the Martin Luther King Committee for putting on this program annually, as well as the Martin Luther King program that typically earlier in the year. And of course, the leader of that effort and a dear friend, Carl Snowden. Thank you very much for everything.
Move on with the program. There was a reference at the end, Colitis made for Fannie Lou Hamer. I just want people to really understand what kind of woman she was. Remember the year, remember America, remember it's Mississippi. Remember she was a sharecropper. She was told by the owners of the property in which she and her husband worked on and lived, do not go and register people to vote. Do not get involved in this campaign led by some minister out of Georgia by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. They told her, don't do it. But she had heard this man named Martin Luther King Jr. speak one day, and she talked about how it affected her. And she decided she was going to work with a group called SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and she was going to go out and start registering people to vote. She went on to plantations. And there were a lot of people that were frightened. They didn't want to lose their jobs. They didn't want bad things to happen to them or their families. But she just was persistent. One day, as she was coming back from the demonstration, as was referenced by Ann, she was picked up on some trumped up charge in Tupelo, Mississippi, taken there. And these officers, these law enforcement officials, did not want to be able to be held responsible for what was going to happen to her. So they said to her, you can leave here unharmed and unhurt if you will agree you will no longer go and register people to vote. Fannie Lou Hamer said, no, I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I think it's the right thing to do. So the deputy, sheriff, ordered two, they were referred to as Negro men, who were in jail on some charge. He told these two Negro men to take a baton and beat her. And these Negro men complied, they beat her and beat her and beat her. She lost consciousness. When she awakened, they felt they had taught her the lesson she needed to know. let her out of prison. And there was a church meeting that evening that she was attending, or was supposed to attend. People in the church was worried because they didn't know what happened to Fannie Lou Hamer. Remember, she was not a Martin Luther King Jr. and say when Dr. King went to jail, the world went with her. People watched. But she was just a sharecropper, not going outside of the state of Mississippi. She had not reached national prominence. So they worried about her. And as the preacher was trying to get these people to get involved in registering to vote, in those days you had to go down to the courthouse, the sheriff's office, in order to register to vote. And as they were trying to inspire people to register to vote, you would hear people in the audience saying, I'm not going to go there. I will not go down to register to vote. I don't know what might happen. And then suddenly in this little church, the back door opens, and in walks Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer is bruised and she's beaten. She's walking with her limp and she's clearly been injured. You could hear a pin drop as Fannie Lou Hamer came to the microphone and described to people what had happened to her. Talked about how she had been beaten. Talked about what they had told her not to do. And then Fannie Lou Hamer did two things that inspired the people in that room to lead the nation. Fannie Lou Hamer, after describing the beating she took, said, tomorrow I'm going down to the sheriff's office to register to vote. How many of you will join me? Remember, this woman was only in her 40s. 5 feet 4 inches tall was she. The bravery. People looked at Fannie Lou Hamer and wondered what was in this woman that gave her that kind of power despite the beating. And what did you know of Fannie Lou Hamer? Well, so many people did not know of Fannie Lou Hamer. She was a woman who was of deep faith. And Fannie Lou Hamer found that when she was beaten, when things looked bad, there was one thing she would turn to. And that's what we're going to be encouraged with in a moment. Sister Johnson, get ready. Come forward. See, Fannie Lou Hamer understood the power of music. And on that day, she sung the song you'll ever hear. Sister Johnson.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching in the freedom land. Come on, one time. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, oh, turn me around, oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching in the freedom land. Well, I know I got religion. I got it when I was a child. Said the Holy Ghost is a witness, yeah. And the devil can't do me no harm. Oh, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. No, turn me around. No, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching in the freedom land. Well, I would not be a sinner, and I'll tell you the reason why. 'Cause if my good Lord would come for me, I wouldn't be ready marching in the freedom land. The son of Miss Ramisa Johnson. We just released the album about 2 months ago, and one of the songs we put on there was called All We Got, and the message was basically just saying, you know, in this world of all of what we're doing, all of the push that everybody has done in the history, in the past, before us, a lot of it come through because of the fact that we didn't give up. We took a faith, and we realized that we're all we got. We're all we got. If we don't come together, if we don't depend on each other, if we don't look from one sister to another, friend to a family, etc., then how we can get there? So I'm gonna give you the hook right now, just to give you a little piece of the story. I don't wanna hurt you, my brother. I just wanna love you, man. We gotta stop killing each other if you wanna stop this pain. Every time on the news there's another black man dying in vain. Just think about our kids, my brother. They're watching us, so let's make a change. I don't wanna hurt you, my brother. I just wanna love you, man. We gotta stop killing each other if we wanna stop this pain. Every time on the news there's another black man dying in vain. Just think about our kids, my brother. They're watching us, so let's make a change. Said I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. So don't let nobody turn you around. We're gonna keep on walking, marching in the freedom land.
For those who don't know it, this church, this used to be a church. And it's always good to share a little history. We're about to introduce some of our readings. It's not by happenstance or accident or coincidence that we're here today. I believe that. I believe it's providence. Years ago, County Executive Pittman's predecessor was a man named Joel. And Mr. Alton, who was the county executive, said that this building, the Mount Moriah Church, needed to be torn down and in its place put up a parking lot. Members of this community rallied and organized and mobilized and energized this entire community. So this church needs to be saved. It's got history. It's one of the oldest churches in Anne Arundel County. But then the county executive said no. He said, I feel so determined that this building must come down that I'm willing to give them a bulldozer. Go to jail and bulldoze it there, he said. Y'all should mess with God's people. Go to jail. But I've been here in this building. Take some pride. The building still remains. Because when people get together, when they make up their mind, we see them do remarkable things. When people make up their minds. Those who read the Bible say that Jesus had 12 disciples. We got 12 on Reed's this evening. One point. Our first one is Nas, who I'm going to ask to come to the podium as we do this introduction. A great educator. Somebody who's been involved in our community. We're going to have the county executive And stand here, get this photograph without all the way. We're going to get the note. County Executive presents you with. What's going to happen is we're going to have everybody do the same thing. They're going to take a photograph for recording purposes, and then I'm going to call on Dawes to give us a few comments. We'll present it to you.
All right, congratulations.
Please.
Thank you so much. Should I read what it says? I'll read what it says. Fannie Lou Hammer Award presented to Nas Afi, presented by Honorable Carl Snowden Chair, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Awards Committee, October 3rd, 2020.
Let's give her a round of applause.
I would just like to make a few comments. This is very, very special to me. I want to humbly thank the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Committee of Anne Arundel County for giving me this prestigious award. It means so much to me that I have been included in this group of such esteemed women who give and do so much to be change agents for the community. Fannie Lou Hamer modeled for us that change for the political and economic struggles of African Americans can come when each of us takes responsibility to work toward the just and equal society we envision. Our mission today remains the same: racial and social justice for ourselves, our children, for generations to come, and for this country, to embrace equity and respect for everyone's rights. I pray and have faith and strive to couple that with action works to achieve the goal. I'm blessed to work with so many of you as individuals and organizations to roll up my sleeves and bring whatever God has given me to the table to contribute to transforming our communities, to educate, expose, empower, and engage the people. To whom much is given, much is required. That is what motivates me to reach out for the collaborations to make it happen. When I listen to our seniors and elderly express a desire to vote, but don't have the means to get there, I know I have to step up and find somebody to get our souls to the polls. To connect with those who have been disenfranchised and forgotten when the need is clearly still there to turn the dime on adequate and affordable housing, food security, safety in our living spaces and on our streets, misconduct, and the social ills that plague us due to lack of jobs and economic instability. It has warmed my spirit to be able to work with people like our beloved Robert Eads, Robin Hood Housing, Bates Senior Living, and Cecil Memorial Church to make things happen. Listening to what our folks articulate as their needs for assistance, support, and resources is fundamental to me as an organizer. I just need to ask and actively listen. I bring my union organizing to community building. Dr. King once said, as I have said many times and believe with all my heart, the coalition that can have the greatest impact in the struggle for human dignity here in America is that of the Negro and the forces of labor, because their fortunes are so closely intertwined. My name means spiritual comfort to mankind, and the spiritual doesn't mean religious, rather it refers to connecting with each other spirit to spirit and our very essence. Fannie Lou Hamer fought for women's voting rights and for equal pay rights in the workplace, the same as men. My mother believed that and she spoke up for equal pay. My father fought for more black foremen at General Motors, both involved in the union. The work of the people is in my DNA, and I strive to bring the legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer and other sheroes to light and a living reality. As an educator, I strive to change the trajectory and the horizon for our black and brown children. I'm convinced we have to work within the system and outside of the system. Unfortunately, there is systematic and structural racism still in the public school systems across this land. And I'm hoping to help transform some of that here in our Anne Arundel County public school system as well. Children need to see themselves in their textbooks, in the content of the curriculum, and supplemental materials and extracurricular activity programs, and in those who stand before them as instructors. They need this in order to have healthy self-esteem, to stay in school and a hope for tomorrow when they can flourish and be contributing citizens and have an ability to live a decent life. Fannie Lou Hamer believed in early education, and she led the way to Head Start. I am proud to be a founding member of the Alkebulan Shule, where we teach youth and parents that life for African Americans did not begin in enslavement, but there was a thriving and an excellence that they brought. We in this community join together in holistic education. I leave with you this. Fannie Lou Hamer was an honorary member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I also thank my sisters and my sorors in the local Annapolis Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta here for allowing me to lead the way for us to become part of the fabric of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Ms. Hamer plowed the fields as a little girl, and she plowed the way for freedom and inequity. And I leave you with this. Keep your hands on the plow, just hold on. Keep your hands on the plow, just hold on. Keep your hands on the plow. We're not gonna take nothing for our freedom now. Let's keep our hands on the plow, let's hold on. Thank you so much.
Give her another round of applause. Our next on the read is a lawyer, a legislator, and a history maker. As was pointed out by the senator, she became the first African American woman elected from District 32 in the western part of our county. Please join me in welcome to the podium, the Honorable Sandy Burlak.
I'll let Sandy speak for herself.
Thank you, everyone. Warrior women. That's what I see before me. I am in the presence here of warrior women. To the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, who has held this event for 25 years, this marking the 26th annual event for the Fannie Lou Hamer Awards. I thank you for your volunteering of your time to plan this event. I know it took a lot of detailed work to make this happen, so thank you. And to Carl Snowden, my friend, my mentor. We've been in a few marches together, a few protests together. Some of my family members are also here to support me and to encourage me, and I thank them. So I want to give a shout out to my wonderful husband, Scott Bartlett. My awesome brother, William Gray. My sister-in-law, Virginia Gray. And my lovely niece, Isabella Gray. Thank you, family. I love you, and I support and I appreciate you. Truthfully, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer and I have some things in common.
But frankly, she was much more of a force to be reckoned with during a time when a black woman speaking truth to power was not only unpopular, but it was unsafe, as we've heard here today. My fellow warrior women, congratulations to you for receiving this honor today in Mrs. Hamer's name, and thank God, she blazed a path for all of us. I appreciate Mrs. Hamer's focus, her spirit to fight for what she knew in her heart to be right. I'm going to share, just for fun, two incidences in which I thought you all might want to hear today. When I had my first protest, I was not yet school age. And I was playing school with some friends of different ages. I was probably the youngest and the shortest. And if you know anything about playing school, the primary role is that of the teacher. And so everyone got their chance to be teacher. And so as my mother tells this story, I didn't get my chance. I was overlooked. So she says that I stood up on the table that we were using for the teacher's table, and I said, wait a minute, hold on. I want to be the teacher. That was my first protest. Because I became a teacher that day, and she's told me that story ever since. The second thing that I remember that made an indelible mark was when I was at Hampton University. I was in the marching band. Hampton is an HBCU, and if you know anything about HBCUs, the marching band is where it's at. Okay? So I played the clarinet, and I was in the marching band, and President Dean Harvey, who is still currently the president, about to retire, he made a speech before classes started because he wanted the band and the football team to be ready. So he made a speech to us, and he says, if ever you need me, my door is always open. Now, he lived on campus, right? I lived on campus. So one day, as college life would have it, we had an away game, and I overslept. My band director believed on time was late. So I kindly marched myself right on up to Dean Harvey's door. I knocked on his door. He lived on campus. He said if I needed him. I knocked on his door and I asked him for a ride. He gave me a ride. And I rode him that day to that game. But it taught me something that I want to leave with you all today. Never be afraid to ask for and perhaps demand that which was promised to you and that which you deserve.
Thank you again. Let's give another round of applause. Our next honoree couldn't be here, but we have a representative that will be coming up from Sarah Blazer, and as she makes her way to the podium, let me say this. She created an organization, Stuart, called South County is Kind. South County is Kind. Stuart and I both lived in Davidsonville, Maryland. So when she came up with this concept, South County is Kind, it was to demonstrate that there are people in South County who believe in diversity, who believe that we should all work to make America better. Her representative will now be receiving the award in her state.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacayla Cole, and I am accepting the award for Sarah Blazer today. I can say a few things about Sarah. She's a lovely, strong-willed woman who does not back down from anything or anyone. She created and the founder of South County is Kind, as he said. I encourage all of you to look into her organization. We are on Facebook, and she is a force to be reckoned with. I reached out to her last year during the pandemic and told her of a few things in my community in Lothian that I wish to see. And she told me what to do, how to do it, and I've met all of the right people doing that. So I am very thankful to her. I'm very young, just graduated college last year. So Sarah has been, thank you. So Sarah has been a great mentor and a great person to be around. There's nothing she can't do, I tell you that one. So thank you all, and congratulations to you all. Thank you.
As I told people earlier, that this particular facility we've been in it was a struggle to preserve it. It was designed for the purpose of making sure that the history of African Americans here in Maryland, here in Annapolis, here in Anne Arundel County, would be preserved. And we've had a number of people over the years who have served as the executive director. The woman who is now our next honoree, who is approaching the podium, as I'm about to introduce her, Chanel Compton, has done a marvelous job. You've got to see the exhibit that's up, and you will understand why she is one of the honorees for the 2021 Fannie Lou Hamer Award.
How's everybody doing? Oh my gosh, I first of all, thank you so much to the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee for this incredible award. I am truly honored to be a part of a cohort of such incredible, powerful women who are making tremendous ripple effects of inspiring people to be agents of change and to empower the next generation to be a little bit more free than what we are today. So thank you so much, Carl, and to the committee. I also want to say thank you to the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture that operates this museum. It is the first state commission, ethnic commission, to be legislated in the nation. I want to thank our Commissioner Tony Spencer for being an incredible champion for change in Annapolis. My partner is over here to my right. Thank you. And to all of you for being here today. The Banneker Douglas Museum is your official museum on African American history and culture, and I am passionate about my role as executive director. Yes, we are a repository of African American history, art, and culture, but we also are a hub for social change. In 2021, through some really great coalitions and community discussions, we launched an anti-racism training that is free and open to the public. And we are dedicated, I am dedicated, I speak in we's a lot because power to the people. We are dedicated, as I am dedicated, to using Black history, art, and culture as a framework to motivate social change for today and the next generation. Because if you want to impact community change, learn about the history of Fannie Lou Hamer. If you want to impact social change in your community, in your home, in your school, in your business, learn about the work of Gloria Richardson. We did a program with Gloria Richardson not too long ago before she made her transition. And you know what she said? She said, this generation is too nice. Okay? This is a call to action to everybody. It is 2021. It's about to be 2022. Transphobia Anti-blackness, homophobia, sexism has no place here in Maryland. All right? Maryland, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, because Carl knows everything. It is the only state in the nation to be a majority-minority state. It is the only state in the nation to have LGBTQIA people identified here as a major population in the nation. We are a diverse state. We are a model for social change. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman was born and enslaved in Maryland, and they became national symbols for change. It's in all of us. So I thank you, Carl. I thank you to our amazing elected officials who are doing the work, am I right? And they're going to keep them accountable. And so thank you. Thank you. Oh, and I can't. If you haven't met Mr. LaRon Herbert, he is our administrative manager. Mr. LaRon Herbert, everyone. If you want to take a tour of our exhibitions, if you want to learn more about our education programs, come see me today or speak to Mr. Herbert. I thank you all. Thank you.
Actually, if you really want to know this history and know information, you can just go to a website called www.blackdemographics.com. www.blackdemographics.com. Here's what you'll learn. You'll learn that in Maryland, there are more African Americans with postgraduate degrees than any state in the union. That's the good news. But you'll also learn in Maryland, more African Americans are incarcerated for longer periods of time than any state in the nation. That particular demographic is just full of information. But the United States of America, there used to be in America something called sundown cities or sundown towns. That's where if you were caught after sundown, you were in trouble. You can go to that particular website and find out the following. If you're an African American and want to travel, what's the best states to go to? What cities you should avoid? It's an incredible website, and it was put together by some incredible, young, gifted African American men and women who put this data together. So I strongly encourage you, if you're interested in research, to do that. It's www.blackdemographics.com. Some things happen nationally in this nation, and if we just pay attention, we see the role that women are playing all over the nation. Roles that women didn't normally have these positions before, but every time you think of some of the great women who come this way, those who live long enough can never forget Barbara Joe. Most people think that Jesse Jackson was the first African American to run for president. Shirley Chisholm did it 12 years before that. Shirley Chisholm was just an amazing woman. Governor by the name of Ann Richards. I love Ann Richards. She was from Texas. She said women could do what Fred Astaire could do, that is ginger, when they could do it in high heels. I love that. So when I introduced this NAICS honorary, for years, correctional institutions were run by men. Our NAICS honoree, as she approaches the podium, she is the first woman to occupy the Eastern Correctional Institution in Westover, Maryland, which has the largest population in Maryland. She's the first African American to serve in this position, Deborah Darden. Give her a round.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. To distinguished guests, honorees, Mr. Snowden, I grew up listening to you, and now on Facebook I can read everything that you put on Facebook. It's a little long sometimes. Oh, it can get long, but I read every single one of them, and I love it. Thank you. To Ms. Cole Kane for the nomination, thank you. My family is also in the room. My Uncle John, Aunt Alberta, my Aunt Marguerite, one of my brothers, Michael. When you see me, you see my brothers, they always travel with me wherever I go. It could be to the store, it could be to go clothes shopping. They jump in the car, it's the truth. And my sister Soror, Sabrina, Darden Hill, Sigma Gamma Rho. So, what Mr. Snowden said is correct. Once you see me, usually it's too late. I've been in the correctional business for 25 years. I started as a correctional officer at the House of Corrections years ago. But no longer is the day where we lock them up and throw away the key. The state of Maryland is big on re-entry and making sure that everyone has the tools to succeed when they enter society, because guess what? They're your neighbors. They live across the street, they live next door. So get ready for them, because they're coming home. And I can't move on without recognizing my English teacher at Anne Arundel Community College. I see you in the back. And Ms. Gitz was so hard on me. But guess what? The tools that she taught me, I took to the University of Maryland with me. I go back and I teach some of the officers, and I go back and I try to do my service to them, and nope, you didn't write that correctly. Let me let you go back and try it again. So thank you. But anyway, I'm not going to stand before you long, because I started getting a little nervous when I got here, because I saw the little notepads and people were jotting down stuff, and I asked one of the young ladies beside me, "You give me a pen and give me some of your paper?" Because I said, I got to write something down. But you know, I had a long time to think about what I was going to say, and then I said, well, you know, sometimes some of the things are best said when you talk off the cuff. Yeah. So anyway, this is a very distinguished honor. I am proud to be a recipient. Fannie Lou Hamer gave us a legacy, and if I could just touch part of that, I would be doing something positive. Thank you.
The year was 1954. The Supreme Court had just handed down this decision. The decision said that schools must be desegregated with all deliberate speed. In Anne Arundel County, the Board of Education had to make a decision, and the decision was, what will all deliberate speed mean? Will it mean that every school in 1954 will be integrated? The answer was no. The powers to be of that day decided that they want to go slow. And so for 12 years, they slowly integrated the schools here in Anne Arundel County. There was a school called Wally H. Bates Legacy School. Yes. Or Wally H. Bates High School, that's now the Legacy Center. That was the only school that served African Americans, no matter where you lived in Anne Arundel County. Whether you lived in the Pumphrey, in the northern part of the county, or down in Lothian or Deal, you had to come to Wally H. Bates High School. The powers that be in that day made a decision. That decision they made, I can say we are still paying the price for. There's a price to be paid for people who decide that that we should put off doing what is fair and right for more than a decade. Even today, we see the problems. They used to call it the achievement gap, now it's called the opportunity gap. But to make it simple, there's this disparity between African Americans and white students. There is this ongoing problem. So a new generation has now come forward. And they have the responsibility to be able to not only close that opportunity gap, but to ensure that all children get a safe, get a fair, and equitable education. I think people would agree that our children's future is not negotiable. And in the wisdom of the county council, they've just appointed a woman who's our next honoree, and Gloria Dink will come forward. She now has the responsibility of making the dream a reality. Our next honoree.
Good afternoon. I know I'm in church when I heard the recipient before me say, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. But I also want to say, giving honor to God, who is the reason for my life. I have so many people here today just coming out to say thank you. But I know that protocol has already been established. But if you know anything, you know I was in the military. And so I have to say to the members of the Martin Luther King Committee, Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, you all are outstanding. I've only been in this county from 2016, but it's one place that you have to stop by if you visit Anne Arundel County. And that is to go speak to Honorable Carl Snow. So thank you. Thank you for what you've been doing for more years than 26, but this award to me means that for sure 26 years you've been walking this walk. So thank you. The other person that, she doesn't talk a lot. You'll never hear this woman speak a lot. But I can remember the very first time that I met her, she was speaking my language. She invited me to come on a Sunday afternoon. My husband and I spend Sunday afternoons. So of course I had to get permission to go and be with this person. But I used her name. I said, Delegate Pam Vital said she wanted me to attend this event. And it was with the Coalition for 100 Black Women. And I thought, oh my goodness, they have a coalition for 100 black women, and this white woman invited me to it? I'll be there, baby. And then, you know, I'm on this campaign with trying to figure out what is it that my good friend, who's, I don't know if he's here yet, Delegate Mike Rogers.
Yes.
I didn't see him. Always near me. Always near me. He sat there and he was sitting inside the office and he said, come inside, I want to talk to you about something. I said, okay, come inside. He said, look at these pictures, what do you think I want to be? I said, well, which one is the highest? He said, delegate. I said, that's what you want to do then. It's no question. You need to make change. Because if you know anything about Delegate Mike Rogers, you know that he loves his people. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, blue, green, it doesn't matter. He loves his people. And there's one person that I always told you, ever run for office, I'll be by your side. And the entire time while I was in the military, shoulder to shoulder, he was by my side. So Delegate Rogers, thank you. Thank you very much. And then he said, you're not going to honor walk for me. We got this nice guy. Don't worry about where he's from. He's a country boy. You'll appreciate him. We're going to put out his paraphernalia as well. And we want to get him elected. I said, I don't know who this person is. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. You all know Mike. Then he introduced me to who's became not only a winner, but just a pillar in this community. And I know that he will be our next county executive, Mr. Stuart Pitt. And his irony is that when I went to this event, after that, of course, if you know Pam, you get invited and invited and invited. So I went to another event, and she introduced me to who is and will continue to be Anne Arundel County's Attorney General, Ann Colitis. And I remember our first teacher saying, you're a winner for something. I said, no, that's your job. Right? And I brought you all of this to tell you that women in my life have always been powerful. I made a decision at 17 years old to join the military because my teacher, Annie P. Kipp, said, who cares if no one's did it before you? Is that what you want to do? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, then don't go to college, go to the Army. Best decision I ever made. But she laid a foundation for me. And 30 years later, when I decided that I wanted to step out of the military and step into my civilian career, I've never done that before either, but you know what? I had to do it, right? So here I am today. And I bring you full circle to tell you that we didn't want Candace Antoine to lead this world. I know I did. When we asked her to run for the Board of Education in 2017, I didn't expect for her to be leaving her seat vacant. But as I told you a few minutes ago, God has already planned my life. And he does it in such an awesome way to where you don't even know what your next steps are going to be. I didn't wake up and think, I'll be taking Candace's place. But I can remember speaking to, once again, Delegate Rogers, and said, let's speak to Joey. And the only thing that he asked Delegate Rogers was to have someone fill Candace's place that was a woman, and also a black woman. And I thought, wow, someone's got some really tall shoes to fill. Never thinking myself. And then I called Joey and his sister and I said, is there anything I can do? And he said, Miss Gloria, the only thing I want you to do is consider filling my mom's position. And I said, that's not my choice. And he said, but I believe that if you tell them that, or if you at least go and ask them, then I think that they will honor that and allow you to do that. So I can't thank the County Council and Councilwoman Sarah Lacy and the team for electing me, selecting me, and appointing me to carry out what I hold near and dear, which is the children of Anne Arundel County. I am not only dedicated to it, but I took care of American sons and daughters for an extensive amount of time. And I do want you all to know that you are in capable hands when it comes to me. I'm not swayed by people's emotions. I'm swayed by fighting for those that can't fight for themselves. And I am your child's advocate, and they will always have their voice with me. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. We're talking about women here, and this is a small second. I would like to ask for the very first woman, chief of the Matomic Village Native American tribe, to please stand. My good friend, Ms. Rose Thomas. Thank you.
Our next honoree could not be here, but a representative will be coming forward to sub for her. Her name is Sonia Feldman. And Sonia Feldman did a marvelous thing for the city of Annapolis. She was able to put together a group of videos to help voters decide who should be elected to the various offices they were seeking. And in one of the races, a candidate won by 5 votes, just 5 votes. And it goes to show you how every vote counts. So with no further ado, would the representative for Sonia Feldman come forward, please? here, she's here, okay? This next representative, this next honoree is somebody who's been organizing, mobilizing people with the notion that just as there should be one Anne Arundel County, the best place for all, there should be one Pasadena. If Debbie Jason, please come forward. One Pasadena.
Hi, I'm Debbie Jason from One Pasadena. It's a community anti-racism group. Thank you very much for this award. I'm so honored to be among so many amazing women. I'm very surprised to be here. I really appreciate this. The 2018 State Hate Bias Report showed that Pasadena had more hate bias reports than anywhere else in Maryland. My husband and I know that Pasadena had a racism problem. It was hard to miss, both due to some interactions in the community and the prevalence of Confederate flags. After years of complaining and of me avoiding many neighbors out of concern that they might be racist, we finally did something. Our first action was in front of Northeast High School after a racist video from students came out. We held signs about love and kindness and were still yelled at by some who drove by. Most people just ignored us as they'd ignored the issues in Pasadena for years. Other schools in Pasadena had had numerous racist incidents that had made the news. Many residents downplayed the issue. A representative to the district said that the problem was that the media was giving it too much attention. It was obvious that racism was part of the culture of Pasadena. Representatives of One Pasadena have testified at county meetings, organized protests, assisted other anti-racism groups with their protests, written petitions, written local politicians, written letters to the editor, live-streamed people recounting their experiences of racism in Pasadena, organized a book club, provided a local coming to the table group, tracked legislation, put out newsletters, and had regular meetings with Pasadena residents. I don't know how much of a difference One Pasadena has actually made to the culture of racism. I do know that the Facebook group has brought together Pasadena residents who previously thought they were alone, whether in their experiences of racist speech and actions in the area, or in their recognition of the problem. That sense of community and knowing that there are people in the area who can be trusted is some progress. One Pasadena couldn't exist and couldn't have organized or participated in so many actions if not for my husband, John, the past and present members of the steering committee, and the other volunteers. This award is theirs as much as it's mine. I also want to recognize that my father, who was active in the civil rights movement, raised me in anti-racism. I am forever grateful for that and continue to be inspired by him, even more than 20 years after his death. Thank you very much for recognition of the work that we've done. We know that we still have a lot to do.
Our next honoree is an educator, but she's also an activist. And one of the things she was able to convince the county executive, the current county executive, Stuart Pittman, was to join in a partnership. And this partnership was to put for the first time in Anne Arundel County a memorial that recognized victims of lynching. Monica Lindsay, would you come forward?
Greetings, everyone. I am so honored
to be here with so many wonderful recipients of this award. I've been really blessed to work closely with some of the nominees here today in a sisterhood. Such passionate souls as my mother, Sister Griot Mashrin Afi, and the tenacious and passionate Reverend Marguerite Morris, as well as many others. I must first, though, thank the Creator for the energy and grace and opportunity to be present in this moment of time. A very special thank you also goes to my family. They ride the tides between meetings and the calls, and they're always there through the emotional moments to support me. We went back there. You all are truly the wind beneath my wings, and I'm so grateful to you. Jacob, you are always so wise and provide such insight. You're patient, loving, and so gracious, because even today it's your birthday. Happy birthday to Jacob. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jacob. Happy birthday to you.
We share in this together. Thank you. To my daughters, Mimi and Morgan, I am so inspired how you young ladies have developed. You all inspire me every day. I love the iterations of self you all have become. You keep me working to make sure you inherit the future that you deserve to have. I've so much enjoyed watching you all grow and the successes you have made. Thank you for being you. I must always thank the esteemed Carl Snowden. He's a mentor, he's always available, always there and blazes a trail. That reminds me of where I need to be and what I should be doing. And also the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee for putting this together. Thank you all so much for the dedication, for your years of work. And I'm also grateful to the person who nominated me today. And though my work may be imperfect, they thought enough of me to recognize that my intentions are true. Fannie Lou Hamer's legacy is that of a woman on a crusade for justice and a champion for voter rights. And her legacy is not surprising. She's a Libra, as am I. We were born under the same sign. And we spend our time seeking that balance for justice and equality. Also, interestingly enough, she was born on a Saturday, just as I was. And while in Ghana, I learned that the name I would have been given would have been Amma. Amma means fierce and passionate lover of people. And we share that legacy. She was also born on a Saturday. This is important in character. The Akan people name their children based on the days of the week. And I'm honored to be born in that same cloth as Fannie Lou Hamer. While she withstood the beatings, the sterilization, the threats to her life, I haven't experienced anywhere near that. But I am so honored to be able to be follow in her legacy in this way, and use my voice to resonate for justice when and where I can. I can only aspire to such courageous commitments as hers. My work with Connecting the Dots has revealed a history for the legacy of lynching in Anne Arundel County, and I commit to continue to work with revealing that history. I've been honored to be able to serve for the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project on the executive board there, and I will continue to work in that space, as well as working with El Kabelon Shule in order to reveal history that goes beyond just the racial history of enslavement. I continue to aspire to work hard in these spaces. And as Fannie Lou Hamer once said, there's one thing you've got to learn about this movement. 3 people are better than no people. So I'm committing to being one of the 3. I commit to continue to this work. I thank you all for your indulgence today and for this blessed opportunity. And I am honored to be here. Thank you.
Roxanne McGowan come forward. I'm so proud of her. She's the Deputy Program Integrationist Outreach Coordinator for the Community Action Agency in Anne Arundel County. All that means is she helps a lot of people who are in need. Please join me in welcome to the podium, Roxanne McGowan.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to be here. I would like to first thank my sister Bobby, who thought enough of me to nominate me for this prestigious award, and the Martin Luther King Jr. committee that agreed. The "you deserve it" comments received from customers, colleagues, family, and friends that followed let me know what I do is not done in vain. It is an honor to stand with the amazing honorees here today, an army selected for a time such as this. I believe I'm in this position today because of the Fannie Lou Hamers that impacted my life. My mother, who I'm sure is smiling down, Bertina Nick, Dr. Charles T. Fairley, and Alderwoman Rhonda Pendell Charles, to name a few. They've demonstrated to me the importance of community, education, justice, and equality, and the fact that your voice and your vote counts, which has led me to never miss the opportunity to cast my vote and spending almost my entire adult life working the election polls and encouraging family, friends, and the community to do the same. In the name of Fannie Lou Hamer, I understand the importance of each of the topics I mentioned above. She exhibited each of them. But my initial experience that may have begun around 1976. There was a Capital newspaper article I sometimes reflect on. When I marched the streets of Annapolis on the front line with Carl Snowden, insisting Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday be an official holiday, when I had no clue of the power of a movement, a march, and a voice. I've also known the value of persistence, a strong Fannie Lou Hamer characteristic. After going to meeting after meeting, month after month, year after year, sometimes feeling discouraged, sick and tired of being sick and tired, fighting to have a needed community center built in the Severn community. But working with the team that never gave up, the result the Severn Intergenerational Center will break ground on November 12th.
Yes.
2020. Never give up. The climate we are in today, trouble on every front. A pandemic, political chaos, racism, homelessness, and mental health has challenged our faith. The pain and the struggles are real, but we must remain focused and steadfast and know that this too shall pass. There must be a concerted effort, understanding if some of us fail, we all fail, and failure is not an option. As I proceed on my journey, continue to fight the good fight, and getting into good trouble, advocate for what I believe is right for my family and the community. I will hold this day as confirmation I'm moving in the right direction. Today, in this moment, I humbly accept the Fannie Lou Hamer Award as it all comes full circle for me. Years ago, when I was presented with the opportunity to attend Sojourner Douglas College, ironically, a portion of that funding for my education was provided through a grant in the name of Fannie Lou Hamer. To the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee for bringing awareness to the life and legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer. This is truly an honor. Thank you.
You know, history is an amazing thing if you appreciate history. I love history. I just love history. I don't see it as ancient. I see this continuing process that takes place. There have only been 11 county executives in the history of Anne Arundel County, and I keep reminding people this county's government is really young. And there are things, there are stories that I've seen over the years that's just amazing. There was a place called Meade Village. Meade Village at one point was drug infested. It was so bad in Meade Village that the Army said Fort Meade, that Meade Village would be off limits to its soldiers. Soldiers couldn't go into Meade Village. Meade Village at one time had this reputation that was incredible. Then some activists got together. And I got to tell you about this story with these activists. It's hard to believe. These activists got together, some women out of Meade Village. And they met with the then county executive, a man named Robert Pascal. And the issue was they wanted more police coming into the community to patrol the community to make sure that the people who lived in Meade Village were safe. The county executive said, no, I think we got enough people. We don't have the resources to put into Meade Village. And then the mother of the recipient, I'm going to tell you, who's here today. That was a woman named Jeannie Hurl. Now y'all got to picture this. They had a skull, and on the skull was the name Pascal, and it was wearing some handkerchiefs around their head, and had some white pattern that started humming this sound, Pascal, Pascal, Pascal. Mr. Pascal got kind of nervous. What these people doing? Pascal, Pascal, there's the skull. He said, what are you doing? They said, if you don't bring police in this community, you're going to find out what we're doing. The mother of the recipient, Grace Lowry, would you stand, please? This is one of those women, the activists. This is like in the 70s, y'all. This is what women did things. So it's no accident. It's no coincidence that Miss Honor Reed is the daughter of this great activist, the Reverend Marguerite R. Morris.
My goodness, my goodness. Mr. Snow, you stole my speech. You got all of the Kool-Aid. But thank you today, so I'm going to do my speech anyway. First, giving honor to God for all the marvelous things that He does and is doing. Secondly, I give honor to my mother, who birthed me and encouraged me by her community activism that goes back probably 60 years. And the Honorable Carl Snowden knows all about that. So my thanks to Mr. Snowden and all those others who worked by her side. Now, I'm not going to tell the story, but I heard there was another story that happened back there, where they went somewhere and they had a bug with them. I'm not going to get into that. Oh my God. But I give honor to the MLK committee as well, and to Ms. Gibson, who made the recommendations, and again to those that supported that recommendation. God bless you. It is indeed an honor to be receiving the Fannie Lou Hamer Award. But had she lived, she would have been 104 years old in just a few days. She has passed physically, but her legacy lives on and is echoed in the chambers of those receiving these awards in her memory. When I read about her life, I see she rose from humble beginnings and went on to do many, many great things. I must say for myself that I'm still rising. And yes, I say still rising because I think I may have right now is perhaps the humble beginnings. Because of the poor colored girl born in D.C., living in places like Cherry Hill and Bacontown. In Bacontown, there were no street lights back then. They had no running water, and water was pulled from the church yard across the street. Behind our home, there was that proverbial, some of y'all know about that outhouse, right? So when we moved to Meade Village over 50 years ago, that was a step up. And somewhere down through the years, and by the grace and mercies of God, I have only begun to come out of obscurity. This is why I'm so blessed and honored to grace this stage today with such distinguished colleagues. These women are second to none. I want to say that the work God has allowed me to do has been across the state of Maryland. The things that He has allowed me to do have impacted persons across the state of Maryland. I praise God because it mentions a 9-year battle that I entered into that culminated in the overturning of an erroneous decision made by Dr. David Fowler, the former chief medical examiner for the state of Maryland. This mommy argued that case in a 5-day hearing. Hallelujah, amen. I'm not preaching, I'm moving on. But I want to say that that was victorious and it just happened because on tomorrow I pick up the corrected death certificate for my daughter. I take great joy in saying that on October the 1st, there was another law, House Bill number 934, that came into effect, allowing families across the state of Maryland to now appeal the matter of death, and that was sponsored by Delegate Sandy Bartlett. So recently inspired, I'm moving on, and also including the Senate, praise God, but it was a work of so many in Maryland that happened, that helps Marylanders. And I had to add this little note as I'm moving on, and this is inspired by Fannie Lou Hamer and others. And I know I'm on Facebook, but recently, so you gotta walk, you gotta stand behind what you're talking and walk what you say, amen? And recently, I was offered a settlement from a company. And an agreement to take that settlement, it said you have to make no more speeches. It said that every organization that you're associated with has to make no more speeches. And I walked away from that because my voice is not for sale. So to my colleagues on the stage and the women that are in the audience, and as well as our brothers and sisters that collectively will continue to lend, we will collectively continue to lend our voices. So as John Lewis said, we will get in good trouble. We will collectively continue to stir the pot for the sake of the disadvantaged. We will continue to stir the pot for the sake of those that are marginalized and for the sake of those that we don't seem that times have room for. So again, it is an honor to be among these beautiful individuals. It's an honor to be here before you today and to promise to never lay down a mantle to help those around us. And memory of those that have gone on. Thank you, Mr. Snowden, for being such an inspiration.
Our honorary, Darlene, if you'll come towards stage, Darlene Washington Russell. And geographically, county executive will have the great honor of making the presentation to her, Darlene.
Good afternoon to everyone here. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be among so many of you great women. To the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, to honored guests, to family and friends, I'd like to first thank Erica Matthews for nominating me for this illustrious award. She is a beautiful person. She is my sister, and I love her. When I received an email from the Honorable Carl Snowden congratulating me as an honoree for the Fannie Lou Hamer Award, I've been getting so many hacked emails. And my daughter said, "You always get hacked, Mama." I said, I think I got hacked again. And then I called Erica. And I said, "Erica, did you nominate me?" She said, "Yes." So this time, I was not hacked. I am so humbled to even be considered to receive an award bearing the name of the great female activist, Fannie Lou Hamer. I was reading, it was 57 years. 57 years. She was just fighting for us, making sure that we were represented. I heard that the President of the United States at that time, Lyndon Johnson, was a little afraid of her. He wanted to quiet her down. But no, she just kept on. I would like to recognize my children here today. Reggie Jr. some up top. And to my wonderful Delicata sisters of the Annapolis chapter. We just thank you, sisters, for being here with me. I have been privileged to have spent most of my life serving others. You may not have heard of me, but behind the scenes, I've been a servant, a servanthood to mankind. As a recreation supervisor, I had the opportunity to serve the citizens of Anne Arundel County for over 30 years. I was the first black female recreation supervisor in Anne Arundel. Today, when I met Miss Grace over here, we talked and we found out that we had a lot in common. I said, do you remember Mike Patton? She said, of course I worked with Mike Patton in Mead Village. I said, my sister was the first teacher at Van Barclay. And she said, your sister taught my son, Don, and she got him into a program. You know, our lives, they're just across each other. We are a diverse people. We are a diverse people, but uniquely made. So we're here today to serve. I've served in my community, thank God, for over 50 years as a local and national president of the Delicados Incorporated. We have given scholarships to I don't know how many young people in Anne Arundel County. We have financially supported the United Negro College Fund. We are affiliate members with the National Council of Negro Women. We have provided funds and we've walked in marches for the local sickle cell anemia programs here in this county. We have always supported and will continue to support the Health Center at Parole Incorporated. I see Ms. Helen Chambers is back there. She's one of my sisters and an integral part of that center. We support the American Red Cross and the local HIV and AIDS organizations. Now I serve in my community, in my church. I'm a church lay leader, a certified lay speaker, and a certified lay servant at Franklin United Methodist Church. I've had many of you come and visit. Those of you that were candidates. Mr. Kitchen over here, he's been in my church. And he was a real worshiper. He didn't just come to show off and let people know who he was, but he was a real worshiper. I thank God for the work that we've done, visiting the sick, preparing meals in this pandemic. We worked the Tri-City, and I'm very proud of the Tri-City Food Pantry. It consists of many, we say Tri-City, but many churches in South County got together. We started in April of 2020. And since then, we have served over 5,000 meals. The first day we opened up, we served 800 families. You couldn't get up and down Deal Churston Road. Cars were everywhere, and we continue to feed them. It's been a challenge, this pandemic, but it's also been an opportunity. It's been an opportunity to serve people. I also served as a community activist, advocating for social justice for the marginalized, participating in many marches. I can remember a cold winter day in January. I don't know how many years ago, many years ago. It was the first march that we did for Martin Luther King's birthday. I was so cold, but I was there. And I've been marching, and I keep on marching. I marched in the Women's March in D.C. and here in Annapolis. And I plan to keep on. As I've served as the treasurer and the vice president at the South County Democratic Club, I've supported candidates by canvassing, making phone calls, knocking on doors being shut in my face. I provided voting information to local citizens, getting souls to the polls for early voting after church services. And during the 2020 election, I assisted folks with their mail-in voting. This was kind of new for us. So some of our elderly and our older folks, they didn't know what to do. So I sat with them and I taught them what to do. I'm still providing information on resources to help our seniors get vaccinated. I've been providing transportation for the middle schoolers who can now be vaccinated. So we're going to keep on working. We don't absolutely plan to stop. I want to say this though, I'm especially proud to be in service for our young people. As an administrator for the Harper School Foundation Incorporated Summer Enrichment Program. It's a 6-week program, and it's free for children and youth. We have this program in 5 churches, 4 here in the city of Annapolis and 1 in South County. The camps are designed to keep the students from falling behind in the summer with their academics. We try to keep them up with their language arts and in math, and provide enrichment activities such as crafts, the STEM programs, and enriching field trips. We've been here on several occasions with our camps. And we didn't come for the last 2 years, but I was telling Mr. Herbert downstairs that we will be back here in 2022 with bringing our camps back here. This is a sacred place to me. It is a holy place. I remember being a little girl. I'm in South County. But I have roots in Eastport. My grandfather had a boatyard in Eastport on Chester Avenue, Charlie Thompson. Some of you may have heard of him. But as a little girl, my first cousin, Joyce Chisholm, came to this church, and we came here to worship. Philip Brown, Rachel Brown, they were big people to us. Big people to us. They did so much in this community and in Wally H. Bates High School. I am honored to be here today. I consider it an absolute privilege to help others. My parents and my grandparents set the example. They set a life of servanthood that has been ingrained in our DNA. Years ago, I thought our house was an open house. Every time I turned around, Mama was bringing somebody to live with us. We had beds upstairs everywhere. But you know what? That's what taught us. That was ingrained in us to help other people. And I thank God for it. Again, I thank you all for recognizing me with this illustrious award, and may the work I've done speak for me.
Would all the men please stand? All men please stand. All men please stand. All men please stand. Turn to all the women in the audience and just give them a round of applause. Not just the ladies, but all the women. represent women at their finest. Now as we move to close the program, I want to bring members of Martin Luther King Jr. Committee forward. Quickly, come forward. And I want you to see these people who helped put this together and join me in thanking them for doing such a magnificent job. Did it disappear on me? I need you to quick. No, but I want a photograph with the committee. Real quick. James going to do it. James is on point. This is the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, and again, we are so appreciative to the work they've done. Thank Arlene for helping to be this year's chair of the Fannie Lou Hamer Committee. Now let's move to conclusion. There are three things I want to announce. Is D Goodwin still here?
Right up top.
Oh, there's D. D is going to he has a responsibility of working with a group of people. For those of you who not know it, I wrote a book called Some People Watch Clocks. I Watch People. We're going to have a great program that D and some other volunteers are putting together. It's October 11th. Monday, October 11th, it's going to be at the Michael Bush Library. It's free of charge. It starts at 7 o'clock p.m. And we're going to share perspectives on history, on living in Annapolis. And I want to show you something as we move to conclusion. Those of you who watch television, y'all pay attention. That's why my book's called Some People Watch Clocks, I Watch. That's a good shot. You learn a lot about it. Pay attention. If you ever watch the Oscars, here's what happens. When the Oscars are given, and someone wins the Oscar, he or she says, I want to thank my producer, I want to thank my cast members, and so forth. You know they're not African American. When the African American wins the Oscar, they say, I want to thank God.
Right.
There's this appreciation of understanding who's in charge and who makes a difference. And that's what Fannie Lou Hamer understood. Fannie Lou Hamer died at the age of 59, died from breast cancer. The beating that I described earlier to you left her with a permanent limp. She was one of the founders of the National Congress of Black Political Women. It was one of the organizations that she founded before she passed. In 1977, before she died, she went to a place called Howard University. That's why I want us to understand our history. Fannie Lou Hamer was among many people in that room. Most of these were young women and men who were collegians. They got their college degrees. Some were going to go on to do great things in their life. And in the room was Fannie Lou Hamer. And nobody knew who she was. In 1977, the civil rights movement had changed. It was 12 years later since she made her famous remarks before the National Democratic Convention. And these people, many of them who stood on her shoulders, many of them got positions they got because of the beating she took, didn't know who she was. We should never allow that to happen. The sheroes of our community are like Fannie Lou Hamer. I think of all the grandmothers and mothers. My mother lived to be 104 years old. And I will never, ever forget what I used to hear my mother do every night. When there were problems, and all families had problems. When there were struggles, and anybody who lived long enough will find that there's struggle. As a little boy, I would hear my mother in her bedroom. She would be praying. And it's a prayer that she gave that I never forgot. It was never a prayer but her good health. It was never a prayer but her hitting the lottery and becoming a multi-millionaire. My mother just talked about her children and asked God to give them the protection they would need, and her grandchildren. I think of so many women like my mother, those who make the sacrifices, those who scrape those dollars together to send us to colleges and universities, those who made our lives better. We should never forget them.
That's right.
And so we have to pause, as we do on this occasion, on Fannie Lou Hamer, to honor women. I want the next generation that follows us to understand that the women that came this way, who made a difference, women that lifted up people and gave them hope. I end on this note with Shirley Chisholm as we do the final selection. If you ever get a chance, you should actually Google Shirley Chisholm's movie. In the movie, Shirley Chisholm is crying. She's running for the president in 1972. She ran for the presidency in 1972. And here's why she was crying. She wasn't crying because she lost the election. She was crying because what her brothers did to her. In 1972, there were only 13 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Today there's over 60. She was running for president against a man named George McGovern, who happened to be from South Dakota. And she discovered something that black women should know. They have a triple problem. Racism is one thing, but sexism is something too. And what Shirley Chisholm found out as she was running for president, there were men telling her, you shouldn't be president. You don't look good enough to be president. There were people who promised her that they were going to support her, and at the last moment, they supported George McGovern, arguing that she can't win. So I'm going to go with George McGovern because I think he can win. For those of you who know history, George McGovern lost 48 states. Shirley Chisholm, wiping away her tears, said, if this race has inspired any girl, anywhere in this nation, to believe that one day she can be president, it's worth it. If there's any girl, by the way, Shirley Chisholm came from the Bronx in New York. She spoke with an accent. Shirley Chisholm said, if anybody has been inspired by my campaign, then my campaign's not been in vain. Shirley Chisholm did not live long enough to see an African American get elected president of the United States, Barack Obama. And every time Hillary Clinton was running for the president, and people kept talking about Hillary Clinton, I wanted to remind people there was Shirley Chisholm. I said earlier in this meeting, I hope somebody wrote the name down. There's a woman named Julie Chen. She was married to Richard Mentor Johnson, first African American woman to be married to a vice president in the United States. And the reason I want people to know that, because when you tell your children and your grandchildren, when they understand that there are people who come before them who blaze trails, and there are those who want people to forget. So on October 11th, we're going to have this event at the library, and then on October 18th, we're going to have an event at Mount Moriah Church, the one on Bay Ridge Avenue, helping people understand what the history is there, what this church means. Chanel, you have your steward of a great moment here. Darlene Washington said this place is sacred. She's right. Before the musician strikes up the music, listen. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Listen to the ancestors as they speak to us. Come on. Listen to those people who used to be where you're sitting. Sunday morning, they're in church. They're praying for a better day. They're praying for a day that has not been. You are the manifestation of their prayers. Each and every one of you. The next song we hear was Fannie Lou Hamer's favorite song. The lyrics is what I want you to pay attention to. Because every single person in this room, without exception, there's a little light in you.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Jesus gave it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, Jesus gave it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, Jesus gave it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. One more time. Everywhere we go. Come on. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Refreshments on the first floor. Please join us for refreshments and a glass of white wine, I believe they have. Please join all of us.